Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures, where humanity always rises. Evan Hale woke up to the sound of metal scraping and cold air brushing against his skin. He did not know where he was. His eyes opened slowly, and bright white lights above his head stabbed into them like needles. He blinked again and again until the world stopped spinning. When he finally saw clearly, he realized he was lying on a metal table inside a huge dark room. Tall shadows moved around him, whispering in strange voices. They were not human. Their skin was smooth and pale blue, their hands long and thin like roots, and their eyes glowed softly in the dim light. Evan tried to sit up, but metal bands around his wrists and ankles held him down. He felt weak. He felt lost. He felt like his mind was empty, as if someone had taken away his memories and left only fear behind. One of the aliens stepped closer and stared down at him with cold interest. "This human should not be alive," it said in a voice that sounded like wind blowing inside a cave. Another alien replied, "He is useless. Soft. A weak bit of flesh. He cannot help us in any way." They spoke about him like he was an object, not a person. Evan tried to speak, but only a small whisper came out. His throat felt dry, and fear pushed against his chest. "Where am I?" he asked, but the aliens ignored him. They turned to a floating screen, where strange symbols flickered. Evan watched as they began testing him, scanning his brain, checking his bones, measuring his heartbeat. Each time they touched him with their cold instruments, they looked confused, almost annoyed. "He is nothing special," one said. "We were told a human could activate the ancient beacon. But look at him. Weak. Fragile. A mistake of biology." A wave of helpless anger passed through Evan. He wanted to shout, to fight, to escape, but he could not move. The metal table felt like ice under his back. The air tasted sharp and metallic. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the whole facility, and the lights turned red. The aliens looked at each other in panic. "The beacon is reacting again," one shouted. All of them rushed toward a giant machine at the center of the room. Evan lifted his head slightly to see. The machine was shaped like a huge stone pillar, with glowing lines running across it like old cracks filled with light. The lines were pulsing faster and faster, as if something inside the pillar was waking up. The aliens surrounded it, their voices rising in fear. "Why is it activating?" "Nothing touched it," one yelled. Another one screamed, "Shut it down before it overloads." Evan swallowed hard. The red lights made the room look like it was bleeding. He felt a strange force tugging at him, like invisible hands pulling him toward the machine. The feeling grew stronger each second. It was like the machine was calling him. He did not know why. He did not even know who he truly was anymore. The straps around his arms suddenly loosened. Evan gasped. He sat up quickly, breathing hard. The aliens did not notice him. They were too busy shouting at each other. Drawn by an urge he did not understand, Evan slid off the table and took one shaky step forward. His legs trembled, but the force pulling him kept him moving. He reached the edge of the platform, and one alien finally saw him. "Human, stay back," it shouted, but Evan could not stop. Something deep inside him whispered, "Go closer." He touched the pillar with one hand. The world exploded in light. The pillar glowed so bright that the aliens shielded their faces. A powerful wave of energy rushed outward, shaking the whole room. Screens shattered. Machines sparked. The ground trembled. The red alarm changed to a loud warning siren. Evan felt warmth spreading from his hand into his body, like fire and lightning mixing together. Images flashed inside his mind, stars exploding, galaxies spinning. Ancient creatures walking across worlds he had never seen, a bright heart beating in darkness. Then everything went quiet. The pillar stopped shaking. The light faded. Evan stood there, breathing fast, his hand still touching the smooth surface. The aliens stared at him in shock. One whispered, "Impossible." Another stepped back in fear and said, "The human activated the beacon, but we cannot." "How can a useless creature do this?" another muttered. Evan looked at his own hands. They looked normal. They looked like the hands of a scared man, not someone who could shake a giant machine with a touch. What is happening to me?" he whispered. Before anyone could answer, the whole facility shuddered violently. A deep booming sound came from above, followed by the noise of heavy explosions. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground rumbled under their feet. The aliens panicked again. "They found us," one shouted. "The enemy empire is here." Another pointed at Evan. "They came for the beacon. And now for the human. He is the key." Evan's heart pounded so hard it hurt. He stepped away from the pillar, shaking. He did not understand anything. Why did the machine react to him? Why were enemies coming for him? Why did aliens call him useless one moment and call him the key the next? The lights flickered, and a loud crash came from the main door. Something was trying to break in. Sparks exploded across the entrance. Evan froze. The last thing he saw before the door blew open was the terrified face of the alien scientist. And the last thing he heard was its whisper. "The human is not useless, but dangerous." Everything went white as the door exploded inward. The blast threw Evan backward, and he hit the floor hard, his ears ringing as smoke filled the room. Alien soldiers in black armor stormed inside, their weapons glowing with bright red energy. The blue-skinned scientists screamed and scattered like frightened birds. Evan tried to crawl behind a fallen metal table, but his legs shook so badly that he could barely move. He felt helpless again, just like when he woke up on the cold table. One of the armored soldiers pointed at him and shouted, "There! The human! Capture him alive!" Evan's heart slammed against his ribs. Why did everyone want him? Why was he suddenly important? He did not understand anything. Before the soldier could reach him, someone grabbed Evan's wrist and pulled him behind a broken console. It was Lyra, the alien who had studied him earlier, the only one who had not laughed at him. Her eyes were wide with fear, but her voice stayed calm as she whispered, "Stay low. Do not make a sound." Evan nodded, his breath coming fast. The enemy soldiers fired shots across the room, destroying machines and sending sparks flying in every direction. The scientists tried to resist, but their tools were no match for weapons built for war. One by one, they fell. Evan felt guilt twist inside him. He wanted to help them, but he had nothing. No weapon, no training, no strength. He was just a human who didn't even remember his past. Yet somehow, everyone acted like he mattered more than anything else in the room. Lyra peeked around the corner and whispered, "They are here for the ancient beacon. And for you. They cannot let you leave." Evan whispered back, his voice shaking, "Why me? I don't know anything. I'm not special." Lyra looked at him for a long moment, as if searching for the truth in his face. "You touched the beacon," she said quietly. "Only humans can awaken it. We thought the legends were lies, but now we know they are real." Before Evan could ask another question, the floor shook as a massive explosion echoed from the upper levels of the facility. Dust rained down like falling ash. Lyra grabbed his arm again. "We must move. If they catch you, the galaxy will burn." Her words made no sense to him, but her fear felt real. She pulled him toward a narrow corridor behind the fallen pillar. Evan stumbled as he followed her, still dizzy, still confused. The corridor was dark, lit only by red emergency lights that made the walls look like they were bleeding. As they moved deeper, distant screams echoed behind them. Evan tried not to think about the scientists dying because of him. He tried not to think about the strange energy he felt when he touched the beacon. He tried not to think about the word dangerous that kept ringing in his ears. They reached a security door, and Lyra pressed her glowing hand against the scanner. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a long ramp leading downward. The air was colder here, almost freezing. Evan shivered as they hurried down. "Where are we going?" he whispered. "To the escape hangar," Lyra said. "If we can reach a shuttle, we might survive." "Might, not will." Evan swallowed his fear and nodded. As they reached the bottom of the ramp, the lights flickered again. Something was wrong. Lyra stopped suddenly and held out her arm to block Evan. "Stay back," she whispered. Evan barely had time to ask why when a dark figure stepped out from behind a large metal crate. It was another soldier, larger than the others, with armor glowing dark red, like heated metal. Its helmet turned toward them slowly. "You cannot run, alien," the soldier growled. "And the human belongs to us." Lyra pushed Evan backward. "Run," she shouted. Evan wanted to argue. He didn't want to leave her alone. But he had no weapon, no strength, nothing. So he turned and ran, his feet slapping against the cold metal floor. Behind him, he heard the clash of energy weapons as Lyra fought the soldier. Evan reached the hangar door and slammed into it, but it did not open. He hit the control panel, but nothing happened. "Come on, please," he whispered desperately. A loud scream echoed from behind him, Lyra's scream. Evan froze in horror. The soldier stepped into view, dragging Lyra by her collar. She was alive, but barely. "Human," the soldier growled. "You will come with us." Evan's body trembled. His hand shook. He felt like a small, scared creature cornered by a monster. The soldier raised its weapon. A red charge began to build at the tip. Lyra whispered weakly, "Evan, run," but something inside him snapped. A warmth rose in his chest, spreading through his arms, his fingers, his whole body. The air around him shifted, humming like electricity. The soldier paused, confused. Evan did not understand what was happening, but he felt it. The same strange force he felt when he touched the beacon. His vision blurred, and a pulse of invisible energy exploded outward from him like a shockwave. The soldier flew backward and crashed into the wall. Sparks burst from its armor. Lyra collapsed to the floor, staring at Evan in disbelief. Evan gasped for air, stumbling. What did I just do?" he whispered. Lyra, shaking, whispered back. The legends were true. Humans can control the primal energy, and you are the strongest one I've ever seen. Evan stepped backward in fear, staring at his own hands. He didn't feel powerful. He felt terrified. Before they could say another word, loud footsteps echoed from the corridor. More soldiers were coming. Lyra grabbed his arm again. "No time. The galaxy will hunt you now." The hangar door finally opened with a heavy click. Lyra pulled him inside. Evan looked back toward the glowing corridor, his heart racing. He knew one thing now. He was no longer just a lost human. He was something else, something dangerous, and the entire galaxy wanted him. Evan stumbled into the hangar, with Lyra leaning heavily on his arm, her breathing uneven and weak. The hangar was huge, filled with broken ships, crates, leaking pipes, and flickering lights that cast long shaky shadows across the floor. The attack had torn the place apart. Fires burned in small clusters, painting the room with orange light. Lyra pointed toward a small, half-damaged shuttle in the corner. "That one, it still works," she whispered, her voice strained. Evan nodded and helped her move faster, but every step felt heavier as the fear and confusion inside him grew. The shockwave he released kept replaying in his mind like a broken memory. He didn't understand how he did it. He didn't even know he could. All he felt was fear. Fear of himself. Fear of what he had become. Fear of the brutal soldiers hunting him. As they reached the shuttle's ramp, loud footsteps echoed from the corridor behind them. The enemy soldiers were close. Lyra pushed Evan toward the controls. "Start it," she said. Her hand trembled as she pressed against her wound. Evan slid into the pilot's seat, staring at a panel full of glowing symbols he couldn't understand. "I can't fly this," he said, panic rising in his throat. "I don't know how." Lyra forced a weak smile. "You don't need to know. Just touch it." Evan hesitated, but the sound of charging weapons behind him forced him to act. He placed his hand on the control panel. Instantly, the shuttle lit up. Systems activated one after another. The engines roared to life. The ship responded to him like it had been waiting for his touch. Evan felt the same warmth from before, gentle but powerful, flowing through his body and into the machine. Lyra's eyes widened in amazement. It's true, humans can bond with ancient tech. Before Evan could ask what she meant, the hangar doors exploded inward. A squad of enemy soldiers rushed in, firing beams of red energy across the room. Evan ducked as a shot flew past his head, hitting the wall behind him. Lyra grabbed the edge of the ramp and shouted, "Go! Lift off now!" Evan slammed his hand against the control again, and the shuttle jerked upward, rising into the air as enemy fire chased them. Soldiers tried to jump onto the ramp, but the ship lifted too fast. One soldier managed to grab the edge, pulling himself up with raw strength. Evan froze in shock as the soldier reached for Lyra with one hand, his helmet glowing red. "Stop!" Evan shouted. He didn't know what he expected would happen. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have a plan. But something in his voice carried the same strange force, and the soldier suddenly lost his grip. An invisible push threw him backward like a violent gust of wind. He fell to the ground just as the shuttle shot upward through the open hangar roof. Evan looked down at his hands, breathing fast. "What is happening to me?" he whispered. Lyra replied weakly, "You are becoming what the galaxy feared would return." Evan didn't have time to ask. Outside, a wide alien sky filled with smoke and fire came into view. Enemy ships rose from the ground, chasing them like angry predators. Red beams of energy shot through the air, narrowly missing the shuttle. Evan held onto the controls as the ship shook violently. "I don't know how to fly," he shouted. "But the ship knows," Lyra said. "Let it guide you." Evan took a deep breath and focused. He placed both hands firmly on the glowing panel. Suddenly, the ship responded smoother, as if reading his fear and compensating for it. They shot upward through the thick clouds. Enemy fighters followed, weapons blazing. Evan couldn't stop shaking, but he kept his hands on the control. "Please don't let us die," he whispered. The ship spun sharply, dodging a missile. Lyra held onto the wall, her eyes fixed on Evan. "The primal energy inside you. It is awakening faster than I expected," she said. "Humans were the only ones who could use it. That is why the Ancient Ones trusted your kind." Evan frowned, confused and angry. "I'm not special," he said. "I'm not some chosen thing. I didn't ask for this." Lyra shook her head. "It doesn't matter what you want. The galaxy has already decided." The shuttle burst out of the atmosphere, entering the cold darkness of space. Stars stretched across the sky like distant sparks. For a moment, everything felt quiet, but the peace lasted only seconds. 3 enemy cruisers appeared behind them, massive and terrifying. "They will not stop," Lyra whispered. "They want the power inside you. They want the beacon. They want control." As Evan stared at the ships chasing them, something changed inside him. Fear didn't disappear, but it mixed with another feeling: anger, determination, the desire to survive. He pressed his hand to the panel again. The ship accelerated so fast that both of them were thrown back in their seats. The stars outside turned into long bright streaks. The enemy ships became smaller and smaller behind them. They escaped, at least for now. Evan leaned back, shaking, exhausted. Lyra finally collapsed, and Evan caught her before she fell from the seat. "Stay with me," he whispered. She looked up at him, her eyes dim but hopeful. "Evan, the war has just begun, and you are the center of it." Evan stared at the endless dark space ahead. He didn't know where they were going. He didn't know who to trust. He didn't know why he was so important. But one thing was certain now: the galaxy would hunt him, fear him, and need him. And Evan Hale, once called a useless bit of flesh, was now the most dangerous human alive. Evan held Lyra tightly as the shuttle drifted into the quiet void of deep space. Her breathing was shallow, her skin turning a pale shade that worried him. He gently lowered her onto a small medical bed near the back of the cockpit. The ship hummed softly, almost like it was waiting for his next command. Evan touched her shoulder. "Stay awake," he whispered, feeling helpless. He didn't know anything about healing alien wounds. He didn't even know how badly she was hurt. Lyra forced her eyes open and gave him a weak smile. "I am not dead yet," she said softly. "You saved me." Evan shook his head. "You saved me first." She looked away, her gaze drifting across the metal ceiling. "I saved you because the galaxy needs you," she whispered. "Not because you are strong, but because you are human." Evan didn't understand, but before he could ask, the ship beeped loudly. A holographic screen popped up in front of him, showing a map of stars and glowing paths. The ship had activated navigation on its own. Evan stepped toward the panel. "Where are we going?" he asked. Lyra answered without opening her eyes. "To the outer drift. A safe place for now." Evan sighed, looking out at the endless void. Safe? Nothing feels safe anymore. The ship followed a bright path through space, moving smoothly like it had a mind of its own. Evan sat beside Lyra, trying to calm himself, but his thoughts spun wildly. Every time he touched technology, it responded to him. Machines lit up. Engines obeyed him. Energy poured out of him, like he was carrying a storm inside his chest. He still remembered the moment the beacon reacted to him, the light, the power, the fear of watching aliens stare at him like he wasn't even human anymore. After a long silence, Lyra whispered, "You want answers?" Evan looked at her. "Yes, please. Tell me something. Anything." Lyra took a slow breath. "Long ago, before our time, there was an ancient civilization. They built the beacons, the gates, the weapons, all powered by primal energy. It was pure emotional force, strength created by the heart." Evan frowned. "Emotions?" Lyra nodded weakly. "Yes, the ancient ones believed only one species could feel emotions strongly enough to control the energy. Humans." Evan stared at the floor, stunned. "But humans are weak," he whispered. "At least compared to you all." Lyra shook her head. "Humans are fragile in body, but powerful in spirit. When you feel fear, sadness, anger, love, the energy grows. That is why the beacon answered you." Evan thought about the shockwave he released. It happened when he was terrified, then again when he was angry at the soldier. He never meant to use power. It just happened. "So these soldiers, they want the energy?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "If they control a human who can use it, they control everything." Evan felt a chill run down his back. "I don't want this," he whispered. "I didn't ask for any of it." Lyra opened her eyes again, looking at him with a mix of pity and understanding. "No one asks to be chosen," she said, "but fate still chooses." Before Evan could speak, the ship jerked suddenly as it exited the bright path. The stars around them shifted, and a large, dark planet appeared far below their ship. It was covered in swirling clouds and dim lights, like a dying world. Evan leaned forward. "What is that?" Lyra whispered. "The planet Valus, a hidden place, a refuge for those who run from war." Evan carefully moved to the pilot's seat and touched the glowing panel. The ship responded instantly, lowering toward the planet's surface. The atmosphere made the hull shake, but Evan kept his hand steady on the controls. As they descended, he saw broken towers, rusted ships, abandoned buildings, and dim fires burning in scattered camps. It looked like a graveyard of survivors. The shuttle landed on a flat metal platform, surrounded by shadows. Evan helped Lyra stand, but she could hardly walk. Her wound was getting worse. He supported her as they stepped down the ramp. The air was cold and heavy, carrying the smell of dust and smoke. Strange figures moved in the darkness, aliens from different species, all wearing old armor or torn clothing. They watched Evan and Lyra with curious, guarded eyes. One tall alien with silver armor stepped forward, his voice deep and rough. "You bring danger here, Lyra," he said. She bowed her head slightly. "We had no choice," she whispered. "The Empire is hunting him." The tall alien looked at Evan with sharp, glowing eyes. "Him? This human is the reason ships burn across the stars." Evan took a step back, fear rising in his chest. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want answers." The alien stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Then you will get answers. But understand this, human. The moment you awaken the beacon, you change the future of the galaxy. And now nowhere is safe for you." Evan swallowed hard as fear twisted inside him again. He tightened his grip on Lyra, who seemed close to collapsing. The alien finally motioned for them to follow. "Come. She needs healing. And you need to understand what you truly are." Evan followed him into the dark ruins, realizing the truth. He could no longer run from what he had become. The galaxy would not let him. Evan followed the tall armored alien through the ruins of Valus, supporting Lyra as they moved through broken halls and dim corridors. The air smelled of metal dust and old fires, and every shadow felt alive with watching eyes. The alien warriors around them stayed silent, but Evan could feel their suspicion. He heard their whispers as he passed. "That is the human? The one who awakened the beacon. He doesn't look powerful." Evan felt small again, like he did in the alien facility, a helpless piece of flesh lost in a world too big for him. Lyra leaned heavily on him, her warmth fading, when the tall alien opened a door to what looked like an old medical chamber. Evan quickly helped her lie on the narrow bed. Strange lights flickered as the machines began scanning her. The tall alien crossed his arms. "She will live," he said, "but she needs rest." Evan nodded, relief softening his chest. For the first time since he woke up in that cold room, he felt a tiny moment of safety, but it vanished when the alien turned to him with serious eyes. "Now we talk." Evan swallowed, nervous. "Talk about what?" The alien stepped closer. "Everything. Who you are. How you awakened the beacon. Why the Empire is destroying worlds just to find you." Evan shook his head. "I don't know anything. I didn't choose this. I didn't even know I could do anything until today." The alien stared at him for a long moment, then finally spoke. "My name is Sarvek, leader of the Drift Guard. I protect this refuge. And you, human, have brought danger to every soul sheltering here." Evan lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't want anyone to get hurt." Sarvek sighed heavily. "You humans, always apologizing for power you cannot control." Evan looked up, confused. "What do you mean, you humans? I thought everyone saw humans as weak." Sarvek nodded. "Weak in body, yes. Fragile. Soft. But strong in ways the galaxy cannot measure." He walked to a glowing device on the wall and activated it. A hologram of the ancient beacon appeared, rotating slowly. "This," Sarvek said, "was built by the first ones, the oldest minds in the universe. They believed that one day a species would be born with an energy inside their hearts strong enough to awaken their machines." Evan frowned. "Why humans?" Sarvek's expression softened. "Because humans feel more deeply than any other species. Your fear, your anger, your hope, your love, all stronger than ours. That is why primal energy responds to you." Evan remembered the shockwave he released when he was terrified, the invisible force that pushed the soldier away, the way the ship obeyed his touch. "So my emotions caused the power?" Sarvek nodded. "Yes, but uncontrolled emotions can kill you and everyone around you." Evan felt a chill. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Sarvek looked at him with a mix of pity and challenge. "Then you must learn control. Otherwise the Empire will use you as a weapon, or destroy entire worlds just to stop you." Evan felt his breath catch in his throat. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to pretend he was normal, that he could return home, that he wasn't some dangerous force the galaxy feared. But he couldn't lie to himself anymore. The evidence was everywhere. Sarvek placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "You cannot run from this, human. Power is already waking inside you. You either master it, or you die." Evan closed his eyes, overwhelmed. "But I'm nobody," he whispered. "I'm weak. I don't even know who I really am." Sarvek shook his head slowly. "You are human. That alone makes you powerful." Evan didn't understand how being human made him special, but the fear inside him slowly mixed with something else, a small spark of determination. He turned toward Lyra, still resting on the bed. She had risked her life to save him. The scientists died trying to protect the beacon. Even Sarvek, a stranger, was offering him guidance. People were suffering because of him, because of what he was. He couldn't just hide. Not anymore. Sarvek gestured for him to follow. "Come," he said. "Your training begins now." Evan hesitated, but he followed Sarvek out of the room and into a wide-open stone courtyard, surrounded by ruined pillars. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the ground. The air hummed as if filled with hidden power. Sarvek turned to him. "Primal energy lives inside your heart," he said. "To control it, you must learn to control what you feel." Evan nodded nervously. Sarvek lifted a metal cube the size of a stone. "Fear will make it tremble. Anger will make it burn. But focus will make it obey." He set the cube on a pedestal and stepped aside. "Touch it." Evan's hand trembled as he placed it on the cube. For a moment nothing happened. Then warmth spread through his fingers and into his chest. The symbols on the ground brightened. The air grew heavy. The cube began to shake. Evan gasped. "What do I do?" Sarvek shouted. "Control your breath. Focus your mind. Feel the fear, but do not let it guide you. Evan closed his eyes. His heart raced fast, too fast. The cube shook harder and harder. Cracks appeared. The energy inside him grew wild, swirling like a storm. He felt it rising, pushing out, ready to explode, just like before. Evan, control it. Sarvek shouted. Evan clenched his teeth, trying to calm his breath. He imagined Lyra calling his name. He imagined not wanting to hurt anyone again. Slowly, very slowly, the storm eased. The cube stopped shaking. Light faded. Evan opened his eyes, exhausted but standing. Sarvek stared at him with rare approval. Good, he said. Very good. You are stronger than you believe. Evan breathed shakily. For the first time, he felt a small spark of confidence. But before he could celebrate, alarms blared across the camp. Sarvek turned sharply. No, not now. Evan's heart dropped. What is it? Sarvek looked toward the sky, his face dark with fear. The Empire's found us. The alarms echoed through the ancient refuge, shaking dust from the broken pillars and waking everyone inside. Evan felt his heartbeat slam in his chest as Sarvek grabbed a communicator and shouted orders in a sharp alien language. Warriors rushed past them, weapons glowing with blue light, armor plates snapping into place as they formed defensive lines. The sky above the courtyard darkened as shadows of enemy ships appeared like monstrous shapes drifting through the clouds. Evan felt a cold fear crawl up his spine. They found us, he whispered. Sarvek turned to him, his face calm but eyes tense. The Empire wastes no time. They want you, human, and they will burn this refuge to ash if it means capturing you. Evan felt sick. I didn't want anyone else in danger. Sarvek gripped his shoulder firmly. This is not your fault. The Empire was already hunting power. You are simply the spark. Evan looked up at the sky, watching as a massive ship split the clouds, its engines roaring like thunder. Smaller fighters swarmed around it like insects, firing warning shots into the mountains. Explosions shook the ground beneath them. Lyra suddenly appeared at the entrance of the courtyard, still weak, but standing. Her eyes widened with alarm. Evan, she called. We have to move. They're deploying ground units. Evan rushed to her side. Are you okay? You shouldn't be walking. Lyra shook her head. I'm not leaving you. Not now. Sarvek stepped between them. There's no time. Evan, you must come with me. We have a hidden tunnel that leads to the caves. If you stay here, they will kill everyone trying to protect you. Evan looked at the warriors forming barricades, preparing to defend the place they called home. He felt the guilt crushing him. They're risking everything. Sarvek's expression hardened. They choose to fight. You choose to survive. That is how we protect each other. A sudden explosion tore apart one of the outer walls, sending debris raining through the courtyard. Empire soldiers stormed through the smoke, sleek armor reflecting crimson light, eyes glowing with mechanical precision. Lyra pointed. Go. They're coming. Sarvek grabbed Evan's wrist and pulled him toward a hidden doorway at the edge of the courtyard. Lyra followed close behind, limping but determined. The roar of battle grew behind them as the drift guard clashed with the Empire troops. Evan could hear metal striking metal, energy blasts crackling, warriors shouting in defiance. He wanted to look back, but Sarvek pushed him forward. Do not hesitate, the alien barked. They entered a narrow stone hallway, lit only by glowing vines on the walls. Sarvek activated a panel, and the door sealed behind them. The sounds of battle faded, replaced by a haunting silence. Evan swallowed hard. How long can they hold them off? Sarvek didn't answer at first. His silence was louder than any words. Finally, he said, Long enough for us to reach the inner cavern. If the Empire follows, the tunnels will slow them. Lyra spoke softly. Evan, don't blame yourself. The Empire destroys anything they fear. Even without you, they would hunt something else. Evan nodded, but his chest felt heavy. They descended deeper into the ancient tunnels. The air grew colder, and the walls glowed with strange symbols, symbols that hummed with a quiet energy that felt familiar to Evan, almost like the beacon. Sarvek slowed his pace. These tunnels were built by the first ones, he said. This refuge was not just a shelter. It was a training ground, a place for those who awaken primal energy. Evan felt a shiver. So others were like me? Sarvek nodded. Long ago. But the knowledge was lost. Until now. Before Evan could ask more, the ground trembled violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm to steady herself. They're using seismic weapons, she said. They want to collapse the tunnels. Sarvek cursed under his breath. Move faster. They ran through twisting corridors until they reached a vast underground chamber. The ceiling stretched high above them, glowing with thousands of tiny lights that looked like stars. In the center was a massive stone platform covered with ancient markings. Evan stared in awe. What is this place? Sarvek stepped onto the platform. The heart chamber, the core of this refuge. It amplifies primal energy. If you focus here, your power will grow faster. Evan shook his head. I can't train now, we're being hunted. Sarvek turned to him with fierce intensity. That is exactly why you must train now. Without control, you will die. With control, you can save us. Lyra placed her hand on Evan's chest. You're stronger than you think. I've seen it. Evan closed his eyes, breathing slowly. The fear inside him twisted like a storm. But beneath it, something else pulsed. Something warm. Something calling him. He stepped onto the platform. The symbols lit up under his feet, responding to his presence. Energy rose from the ground like invisible waves. Evan gasped as power rushed into him, faster and stronger than before. His heartbeat echoed through the chamber like a drum. Sarvek shouted, Focus. Control your breath. Evan tried. He fought to steady himself. But the power kept rising, filling him until it hurt. Lyra realized something was wrong. Sarvek, it's too much for him. Sarvek shook his head. No. This chamber chose him. He must endure it. The ground trembled again, this time not from Evan. Footsteps echoed through the tunnel entrance. Empire soldiers burst into the chamber, weapons raised. Lyra screamed. Evan, stop them. Evan opened his eyes. The energy inside him surged, brighter and wilder than ever before. And for the first time, he didn't try to hold it back. The moment Evan opened his eyes, the entire chamber seemed to freeze in place, as if time itself hesitated. A bright pulse of energy spread out from his body like a shockwave, shaking the ancient stones beneath his feet. The Empire soldiers who had entered the cavern stopped for a second, stunned by the sudden surge of power glowing around the human they had been hunting. Evan felt the energy burning inside him, scary, wild, and alive. Yet somehow it did not hurt him anymore. It felt as if it recognized him. Sarvek raised his weapon and shouted orders to the Drift Guard, who rushed forward to shield Evan. But Evan lifted a hand without thinking, and a transparent barrier formed around him and his allies. The Empire soldiers fired their weapons, but the blasts bounced off the barrier like tiny sparks hitting glass. Lyra stared at him with disbelief and awe. Evan, you're controlling it, she whispered. Evan wanted to say something, but the energy vibrating through his body made it hard to speak. Instead, he took a step forward, and the barrier moved with him like a living creature responding to his intention. The Empire soldiers panicked. They tried to regroup, but their weapons flickered and malfunctioned as they came closer to Evan, as if his energy disrupted their technology. One of the soldiers shouted, Retreat! He's destabilizing our systems. But before they could move, the chamber doors slammed shut on their own, ancient mechanisms locking them inside. Evan didn't understand how he did it, but he could feel the entire chamber, its walls, its symbols, its age-old power, like a heartbeat matching his own. Sarvek looked both impressed and worried. Evan, listen to me, he said urgently. You must focus. Do not let the power decide for you. You must decide. Evan nodded, trying to calm himself. He took a deep breath and imagined the energy flowing like water instead of a storm. The glow around him softened. The barrier faded but did not disappear fully. It hovered like a protective haze. The Empire soldiers realized the barrier was weakening. They rushed forward, shouting war cries. Lyra stepped in front of Evan to protect him, but Evan raised his hand again. This time, the energy responded gently but firmly, creating a wave of force that pushed the attackers back instead of harming them. They flew across the chamber, landing hard but alive. "I don't want to kill them," Evan said, his voice trembling. Sarvek nodded approvingly. "Good. The first ones valued control more than strength. You are learning." But the situation was far from safe. The chamber walls trembled as the enemy ship overhead released heavy drilling machines, trying to break into the cavern from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra grabbed Evan's arm. "We can't stay here. The Empire will break through any second." Sarvek pointed to an ancient doorway at the far end of the chamber. "There's a second exit, but it leads through the trial halls. They are dangerous." Evan didn't hesitate. "We go." Sarvek pressed a symbol on the wall, and the stone door slowly opened. A cold wind rushed out, smelling of age and forgotten memories. Behind them, the Empire soldiers were recovering, preparing for another attack. Evan, Lyra, and Sarvek ran through the doorway as the chamber shook again. The door closed behind them, just as an explosion blasted through the room they had left. They found themselves in a long corridor filled with glowing marks on the floor, each symbol shifting like it was alive. Evan stepped carefully, but the moment his foot touched the first symbol, the corridor lit up. Sarvek grabbed Evan's hand. "Do not step anywhere unless I tell you. These halls test the mind, the heart, and the spirit." As they moved forward, the air grew colder. A strange whispering sound echoed around them, coming from nowhere and everywhere. Lyra shivered. "What is that?" Sarvek answered quietly. "Echoes of those who tried the trials and failed." Evan swallowed hard. "Failed how?" Sarvek didn't answer. They reached a circular chamber with 3 paths. On the wall, symbols glowed brightly as if waiting for Evan. Suddenly, the chamber darkened, and illusions formed around him. Ghost-like images of himself, weak, scared, alone. The whispers grew louder. "Useless, weak, soft nothing." Evan's hand shook as he saw the illusions laughing at him. Lyra stepped beside him and touched his shoulder. "Evan, it's not real. Don't listen." Evan closed his eyes. He remembered the beacon reacting to him, the drift guard risking their lives for him, the energy that flowed through him when he chose to protect instead of destroy. When he opened his eyes again, the illusions flickered, then shattered like glass. The whispers faded. The chamber brightened. Sarvek nodded with pride. "You passed the trial of doubt." Evan breathed heavily. "How many more trials are there?" Sarvek answered. 2 more before we reach the outer path, and each one is harder than the last." Before Evan could respond, the entire corridor shook violently. A massive drilling machine broke through the ceiling behind them, and Empire soldiers dropped down, weapons ready. Lyra screamed, "They found us again!" Sarvek activated a hidden switch, and a stone bridge extended across a deep chasm. "Run!" he shouted. Evan, Lyra, and Sarvek sprinted onto the bridge as the soldiers chased them. Halfway across, Evan turned around, energy swirling around his hands. "Go!" he shouted to Lyra and Sarvek. "I'll hold them off." Lyra shook her head desperately. "Evan, no." But Evan stood firm. For the first time, he wasn't running. He wasn't afraid. He was ready to fight, not to destroy, but to protect. And the chamber reacted, the symbols glowing brighter as if the ancient power itself stood with him. The enemy soldiers raised their weapons. Evan raised his hands, and the bridge began to shake under the force of 2 powers about to collide. Evan stood on the shaking bridge, energy swirling around him like a storm he could feel in his bones. His hands glowed bright as he focused on the soldiers rushing toward him, their weapons aimed directly at his chest. Lyra and Sarvek watched from the far side, fear etched across their faces. The symbols on the bridge pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, feeding the energy inside him. The first soldier leaped forward, his weapon firing a red blast, but the energy around Evan expanded, forming a protective sphere. The blast bounced harmlessly off, sparking against the glowing barrier. Another soldier jumped, swinging a metal staff, and Evan instinctively raised his hands. A wave of force threw the soldier back into the chasm, his armor clanging against the stone walls. Evan gasped, the power roaring inside him, uncontrolled, yet responding to his instinct. He did not want to hurt them, But he could feel the danger. They were relentless, and if he did not act, they would reach Lyra and Sarvek. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside him, but it only grew stronger. Sparks of energy danced across his fingers, and the bridge beneath them shook violently. Sarvek shouted, "Focus, human. Control it. Feel it, but do not let it guide you blindly." Evan closed his eyes, imagining the safety of Lyra, the courage of Sarvek, the lives depending on him. Slowly, he stretched his hands forward, letting the energy flow outward but controlled, forming a dome that pushed the soldiers back instead of harming them. One by one, the Empire troops were forced to retreat, stumbling as the invisible wave of primal energy pushed them off balance. Some tried to fire, but their weapons malfunctioned, sparks flying and explosions erupting around them. The bridge trembled, threatening to collapse, but Evan held on, steadying himself with the rhythm of his heartbeat. He realized the energy wasn't just power. It was a reflection of his mind and his will. The more he focused, the stronger the barrier became. Finally, the soldiers stopped, retreating to regroup, shouting orders to the machines above. Evan felt exhaustion wash over him, his arms shaking, sweat running down his face. But he also felt something else, confidence. For the first time, he realized he could survive this. Lyra ran to him, throwing her arms around his chest. "Evan, you did it!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling. Sarvek stepped forward, pride clear in his eyes. "You are learning faster than I imagined." The first ones would have been pleased. Evan looked down at his hands, still glowing faintly. "It feels too much sometimes. I don't know if I can control it all the time." Sarvek nodded. "That is why training is only the beginning. Mastery comes with experience. Control comes with understanding yourself." Suddenly, the bridge shifted violently as a massive explosion erupted from the ceiling above. The drilling machines of the Empire crashed into the stone supports, shaking the entire chamber. Rocks fell around them, and dust filled the air. "We must move," Sarvek shouted. They ran toward the end of the bridge, stepping carefully over cracks forming beneath them. The chamber behind them was now engulfed in flames and falling debris, Empire soldiers fighting to stabilize their retreat. As they reached the end, a large stone gate appeared, glowing with ancient symbols. Sarvek pressed his hand against the panel, and the gate opened slowly, revealing a glowing cavern beyond. Evan hesitated for a moment, feeling the energy inside him react to the symbols on the walls. It hummed, alive and attuned to his presence. He realized the chamber was not just a place. It was a conduit for his power, amplifying everything he felt. Taking a deep breath, he led Lyra and Sarvek through the gate. The chamber behind them collapsed with a thunderous roar, sealing off the bridge and cutting off the pursuing soldiers. The sound of falling stone echoed through the tunnels as they ran further into the glowing cavern. The light inside the cavern pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding them forward. Evan felt the primal energy inside him shift, calmer now, more focused. He was beginning to understand it, beginning to trust it. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes wide with awe. "Evan, you're not just a human. You're something else. Something powerful." Evan shook his head. "I don't feel special. I'm just scared." Sarvek chuckled softly. "That is what makes you special. Fear makes you human. Courage is what shapes the power." As they moved deeper, the tunnels opened into a massive chamber filled with ancient structures, glowing pillars, and floating stones. The air was thick with energy. Evan felt it vibrating through him, connecting with his heartbeat. Sarvek turned to him. "This is the Chamber of Ascension. Here you will learn to master your power completely. But beware, the Empire will not stop. They will send everything they have to capture or destroy you." Evan nodded, feeling a strange mixture of fear and determination. I will try." Sarvek smiled faintly. "Trying is not enough. You must succeed. The galaxy depends on you." The chamber pulsed brighter, and Evan felt the energy inside him swell. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He was no longer just the useless human they had laughed at in the alien facility. He was a force to be reckoned with. The Empire would come, stronger than before, but Evan Hale had begun to awaken fully. And this time, he was ready. Evan stood in the center of the Chamber of Ascension, feeling the energy pulse around him like a living being, vibrating in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Lyra and Sarvek watched from the edges, tense but trusting, as Evan slowly extended his hands toward the floating pillars. Light flowed from them into his body, merging with the primal energy inside him. He could feel it strengthening, filling every muscle, every nerve, every thought, and yet it was calmer than before, controlled. He realized then that the energy responded to his will, not his fear, and that for the first time, he was not scared of it. "Focus," Sarvek said quietly. "Listen to it, but do not let it control you." Evan nodded, closing his eyes, and took a deep breath. Images of the Empire, the soldiers, the beacon, and the lives at stake flashed through his mind. He let each feeling flow into the energy, his fear, his anger, his determination, his hope, and the chamber responded, glowing brighter with each pulse of emotion. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes wide. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You're shaping it with your heart." Evan opened his eyes, and the energy swirled around him like a storm of light and color, but it moved in harmony with his thoughts. The floating stones shifted, forming patterns he didn't consciously command, yet obeyed him completely. Suddenly, the chamber shook violently. Alarms rang out in distant tunnels. The Empire had found the outer entrance again. Heavy steps echoed through the caverns as soldiers approached. Evan felt a surge of fear. He tried to push it aside and focus, but the instinct to protect Lyra and Sarvek flared within him. Without thinking, he raised his hands, and the energy shot outward in a controlled wave. The nearest soldiers were lifted off their feet, thrown back like ragdolls. Their weapons clattered to the ground, sparking but harmless. Evan staggered, breathing hard, realizing that even fear could be channeled into control if he focused enough. Sarvek shouted, "Good, but more are coming. You must not falter." Evan nodded, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. Another group of soldiers burst into the chamber, firing beams of red energy. Evan's instincts took over. He extended his hands again, and the beams bent away from him as if repelled by an invisible force. The chamber's floating pillars amplified his energy, forming a barrier that made the attackers stumble and fall. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Evan, careful," she warned. "Don't lose yourself to it." Evan shook his head and took a deep breath, grounding himself. "I control it," he whispered to himself. "It doesn't control me." The words gave him strength. The energy swirled faster, brighter, but harmoniously now, like a river flowing instead of a storm raging. He stepped forward, the floor beneath him glowing with light in response to his presence. The soldiers froze, then tried to advance, but Evan raised a hand, and the energy pushed them back without hurting them. "You are learning," Sarvek said, pride in his voice. "The first ones would be amazed." Evan felt a small smile. For the first time, he was beginning to believe in himself. But then the ground trembled again. From the tunnels, massive machines crawled into the chamber, carrying heavily armored soldiers. The ceiling cracked as beams of energy shot from above. Evan's heart pounded. He could feel the pressure building inside him, the energy reacting not only to his emotions, but to the danger surrounding them. He realized he had a choice: control it or let it explode. He focused on Lyra and Sarvek, on the drift guard risking their lives outside, on every innocent being the Empire had already harmed. And slowly, he let the energy flow outward, forming a protective dome around the three of them. The machines tried to push through, but the barrier held, bending their movements, forcing them backward. Evan stepped forward, moving with the rhythm of his own pulse. The energy followed, creating a corridor through the attacking soldiers and machines, a path for them to escape deeper into the cavern. Sparks and flashes lit the chamber like a storm, yet Evan felt calm, in control, powerful but measured. Lyra ran beside him, awe on her face. You're incredible," she whispered. Evan shook his head. "I'm just learning," he said, still focusing on the energy, keeping it steady, guiding it with thought and heart. Sarvek followed close behind. "Learning is enough. If you master it, you can challenge the Empire itself." Evan's mind raced with possibilities. He realized that this power, terrifying as it was his responsibility. He could protect, he could save, he could fight without becoming a weapon of destruction. The first wave of soldiers had been repelled, but more were coming. Yet Evan did not falter. The Chamber of Ascension responded to him completely now, amplifying his will. As he advanced, he saw the exit at the far end, glowing faintly with the energy of the outer cavern. He knew the Empire would not give up, but he was ready. For the first time, he was not afraid. Evan Hale, once called a useless bit of flesh, had begun to awaken fully, and the galaxy would never see a human like him again. Evan led Lyra and Sarvek through the glowing exit of the Chamber of Ascension, feeling the energy inside him settle into a calm, powerful rhythm. The air outside was cool, carrying the faint scent of minerals and the faint hum of ancient machines. He glanced back at the chamber, knowing that the Empire would not forget this place, that they would send more soldiers and more machines to destroy it. But Evan no longer felt helpless. He had learned control. He had learned focus. He had learned that the power inside him was not a curse, but a weapon of protection. Lyra leaned on him slightly, still recovering from her wounds, and smiled weakly. "You're incredible," she whispered. Evan shook his head. "I'm still learning. I just know I can't let them hurt anyone else." Sarvek nodded, his silver armor catching the faint light of the cavern. "The first ones created tests to forge leaders of power, but none have ever awakened as you have. The galaxy will watch you, human, and the Empire will come, stronger than ever." Evan felt a chill run through him. "I'm ready," he said, and though he wasn't sure if it was true, he knew he had to be. They emerged into a vast cavern, the walls covered with ancient runes glowing faintly, reflecting the last light from the Ascension Chamber. The floor was uneven, littered with stones and relics of the First One civilization, yet the path forward glowed, as if guiding them. Evan felt the energy inside him respond, flowing into the runes, lighting the path ahead. "Stay close," Sarvek warned. "The Empire will not stop. We must reach the outer path, where safe havens exist for those who can fight back." They moved carefully, each step echoing through the vast cavern. Shadows shifted in the corners, some natural, some strange illusions created by the ancient technology around them. Evan felt the energy stirring, responding to the presence of danger even before he saw it. Suddenly, a deafening roar filled the cavern as massive drilling machines smashed through the ceiling, sending rocks crashing around them. The Empire soldiers poured in, weapons blazing, red energy beams lighting the dark. Lyra screamed, and Evan felt the familiar surge inside him. He raised his hands, letting the energy flow outward, forming a barrier that bent the beams away and through the soldiers' back. This time, he did not panic. He focused, guiding the energy with thought and heart. The soldiers stumbled, their weapons sparking and failing as Evan moved forward. Sarvek and Lyra followed closely, trusting him to lead them through the chaos. As they reached a massive stone bridge, suspended over a deep abyss, Evan felt the energy resonate with the structure beneath his feet. He realized he could reinforce it, making it safe for them to cross. With a wave of his hands, the bridge strengthened, glowing faintly under the primal energy flowing from him. They moved forward slowly, carefully, as more Empire soldiers tried to block their path. Evan concentrated, sending controlled pulses to push them back without harm, allowing them to continue. The energy responded to his emotions, his determination, his desire to protect. At last, they reached the other side, stepping onto solid ground bathed in a pale, gentle light. Evan stopped for a moment, looking back at the cavern behind him, the roar of the Empire's machines echoing like a distant storm. He felt a strange sense of pride and fear at the same time. "Is it over?" Lyra asked, her voice trembling. Evan shook his head. "Not yet. They'll come again, and they'll be stronger. But we survived this, and we'll survive the next." Sarvek stepped beside them. "You have grown beyond any human I've ever known. Control, courage, strength. You are ready for what comes next." Evan felt the words settle in him like a seed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was ready to fight, ready to protect, ready to face the galaxy that feared him. As they moved toward the outer path, Evan sensed the energy inside him aligning completely, no longer wild or storming, but steady and powerful. He looked at Lyra and Sarvek, feeling a sense of responsibility heavier than any weapon. "I won't let them hurt anyone else," he said, his voice firm. "I promise." Lyra smiled faintly. "We know, Evan. We trust you." Sarvek added, "The galaxy will need you. And you will decide its fate." Evan's heart pounded, not with fear, but with determination. For the first time, he felt fully alive, fully human, fully powerful. The outer path stretched before them, glowing faintly, promising refuge but also trials yet to come. The Empire would not stop. The beacon's awakening had changed everything. But Evan Hale, once called a useless bit of flesh, had awakened completely. And now, nothing in the galaxy could underestimate him. He raised his hand slightly, feeling the gentle hum of primal energy inside, ready to face any challenge. Together with Lyra and Sarvek, he stepped onto the path, knowing that the next chapter of the galaxy story, and his own, had only just begun.